Hey people, in this movie we're going to use some Hebrew astrology to date the book of Job. And we're able to do that because in Job 31 at the top, he wrote in the writ of Crady, and he left us the code in here. So over the years, all the kings, they had Jewish astrologers. And even the Bible talks about how they hired the Jewish astrologers to read their dreams. And you go wiki on Jewish astrology, and it'll talk a little bit about it. And then, before they ever get into it, they got to say that assumed today by modern science to be a pseudoscience. But yeah, all your kings still hire Jewish astrologers and contraries, and they'll call it a rabbinic belief. But all the Jewish writers, that's what they wrote about, was astrology. And they say, people of Israel are prohibited by Jewish law to consult the astrologers and stargazers for guidance. And Abram ben David asserts that the influence of stars upon destiny, while contending that faith in God may overcome this influence. And so all these ancient Jewish writers believed it. And so all these names have been changed since the biblical Hebrew, and it came from writers that understood the biblical Hebrew but didn't want to let in on the secrets, but wanted to sell information, so they changed the writing. But the Hebrew astrology is like the Vedic astrology. It doesn't matter so much what your sun sign is. What matters more is what planet you were born under. And so you have to have the time of day that you were born to get your planet, and it has more effect. It doesn't matter which day you were born. If you could just hold out for a couple hours, your planet will change. And this is the same in the Vedic. And that's why you find these yonis all around the world, the lingam. And it was used to slow your birth down, to get the correct planet overhead when you gave birth. Because you didn't want to give birth during the hour of Saturn, because your child would be unsuccessful, associated with failure, awakens wars and captivity, plunder and famine, and they all believe this. So this all come from the ancient Vedic astrology that was brought by Arphaxad, and it was all written in what they call as the book of Job, and that's why the Jews' job was astrology. But they had 27 or 28 houses of the moon, the lunar zodiac. And so the same as in the Hebrew, depending on when you were born, where the moon was, that would add to the beginning of your name. That gave you the beginning of the name. And that's why the words, when it says the words, and he said, it's actually a word that means the time. You can tell the time of birth by the name. It'll tell where the moon was. It'll tell what planet you were born under, and it'll tell the sun sign. All the word is the day. So I run upon this. That last movie, I found this word that means wisdom, and it's pronounced wisdom. And I went to looking it up. It goes in this category of about 100 different words here. This way it comes up the most, 111 times. And it's not always the same word. Sometimes it's just to make the day. And sometimes it's wisdom. They have all these different marks. And sometimes it's the birthday. And this is the birthday here. It reads Y and then Yoni, Y-O-N. And this line tells you to come back and read this I again, Yoni, and then the Yom. And so when the N's final, it pronounces an M, and it means the day. And the Yoni is here. This is what this means, the Yoni. The Yoni. And it's Sanskrit word for womb or vagina. This is why you always see Mary in a matrix. And the way she's dressed is supposed to represent the yoni. And I don't see it now, but I remember when I was a kid that people would have the statue in their yard, and it would be surrounded by a yoni. I thought it was just a a shell or something. So to Yoni Yom, is the day you were in the Yoni, the birthday. So I went on through this word. I was looking for everywhere it said wisdom. And I learned a couple more words while I was searching how this word would change around with different markings. But I read everywhere where it said wisdom to see if I could get any wisdom. And I learned some things. But what I noticed most is, it comes up, job 1-7 is the birthday first. And then 1-9 is the wisdom. And then on 2 it's the birthday again. Then in 2-4 it comes up as the wisdom again. And then in 3-2 it comes up as the birthday. And I went to look at it, and they knew this was birthday. And so the people knew it was in there, so they had to add birthday over here to Yom today too. And you see how they added birth because it just wasn't in there. Usually they just say that means the day. But this was the birthday. And then I noticed, it came up in job. It comes up the first word. Almost every chapter. Starting at 4 here, it's the first word. And it's just to the day. And when it comes up like this in 6, this is the word of the tortoise shell. We see that last movie that the Giam is the outer shell of a tortoise, the 28 days. And it's talking about to the Yoni of Yom, to the birthday in way of the shell of the outer ring of a tortoise to begin. And so it's talking about the first days here. And so it comes up 3 different ways to build it. And in the first word of most every chapter, it's talking about the day. And I knew this is what I was looking for. And this is the first book, that was written. All the other Bible was to copy this. But it's talking about the day. The first day of the month. The first day of the month. And it begins on pretty much every chapter. Most of the chapters is the day. The first day, the birthday. The birthday of the Zohar. But it's to the day of the Zophar enormity. The little diamond has you move the I over, enormity. But it goes on through, and it's the first word in most of all the chapters here. And they switched the next 2 words, but yeah, all these chapters is just when it comes up like this, it's just these 3 words that start every chapter, and it's to the birthday in way of outer ring of the tortoise to begin, the month to begin, the 28. And this goes on through until 32. I've seen it drop down. And then it changes up a little bit after that. It comes up a couple more times. But it changes up from the others. But it's still just the 3 words here. The chapter ends at 42. It comes up here a lot in chapter 40. And then the chapter ends at 42:1 with it. And so I went to look at all these chapters. I read top 5 lines of all of them to see what it was talking about. And then I went back and I counted every time it come up like this to the birthday in the way of the tortoise begin. And it come up 9 times like this. So I knew it was talking about this Veda astrology because it's got 9 lords. It's got the 7 planets, and then it's got Rahu and Ketu that are switching up times. That plus this word for the tortoise shell, is a Chinese. And that was their view of the world, and the edge of the tortoise shell was their 28-day calendar, 28 moons, 28 stages of the moon, and the 13 moons of the year. So over here in job 31, it's in the writ, and their interpretation for this: a covenant I have made with my eyes, then why should I look upon the young woman? Plenty clues in there. And then for what is the allotment of God from above, and the inheritance of the Almighty from on high? This is a misinterpretation, and it has to do with memory. The MMMR, memor, from memory, from is, the memor to memor from is. And they're getting this misinterpretation from the Enuma Elish, the Akkadian story of the gods. But it's just misinterpretation. They say this means from on high. And what you have here is a E and a nu, inu, and then M from E-L-I-S, Elis. And it's the on, E-N, and then from the L's. The L's are the gods. From the gods is their place in the heavens. And they'll say it means when on high, or Enuma meaning when, and Elis is up above. But they're getting that M with the wrong word. You can plainly see the space in between here, and this word goes here. And so this is from the place of the L's, this, and this is what means, above in the stars. And the N is the gods. And so that's why they're getting this from on high. But it's actually just, it means to memor from is. A way to remember things is in the stories. But this is Brit, and you can see the little line down here telling you to read the B separate, in, and then the writ, in the writ of habeas corpus, in a covenant, in the writings, in the writ of the craddy. And this is where your word democrat comes from. It means to govern. In the writ, to govern, the craddy. But it actually, it reads crack, backwards and forwards and backwards, K-R-K, the cracket, and then writ, the writty, the writings, the cracket, writ, and then L, riddle. And you'll see this, after this word covenant, it's often followed by a O-U-L or a L, and it means the riddle, and to crack it, the riddle. You got to crack the riddle. In the covenant, in the crack it riddle. To crack the riddle, to understand it. The crack it riddle, the riddle seeing, O-I-N-I, to seeing. The W-M-E, and then starts with A, so it's backwards, N, women. The women, and then the diamond tells you, to move this U on the other side. And so it's the women, when, and then to, Vav, connector to, B-T-A-O-L, the women to battle. And then backwards and forwards, the lute, in tool. So this in tool is also the butt wheel, Batula. And that's usually given the meaning of the virgin. That's here, that's Virgo. On the opposite side of Pisces is Virgo. This was the 1, this was the 6. And it's Batul, B-T-U-L-E, Batul. And so this word, the craddy here, a lot of people are reading it like that. In writ of the to govern, the craddy. And we look at the other words similar that they give this meaning is to cut off, to cut down, to cut off a body part, to cut out, eliminate, to kill, to cut, a covenant. Cut is what everything has in common. But it's actually coming from this word, the critica, meaning the Pleiades. And it's the most recognizable sign in the sky. It's 7 stars bunched together real tight. And this is what the way the ancients seen the Pleiades was the sisters doing battle, the 7 daughters of the Titan Atlas. And they were often pictured naked. It was because it means there was nothing hidden. Everybody knew about this. A covenant I've made with my eyes, then why should I look upon a young woman the the virgin, the butthole, in all in tool. The women win to in battle. So this cratty here, it sits at a right ascension of 3 hours, 47 minutes, 24 seconds. And it was the naked knowledge. Everybody knew about this. You can see it sitting here, the seven sisters. And it sits here in the sign of Taurus. And I believe this horn's up here. I believe this is the eye over here. You can see it right here in Taurus's back. So this word krati, or to govern, it tells me when the Vedic astrology was written. Because the governor is here at this crossing. When the sun crosses the equator, right there close to Easter. They got Easter moved around for the moon, but this is the point of the sun's travel, and it's coming up. And so at the time this map was drawn, it was here in Pisces, and we're now moved down here farther to Aquarius. But it's telling me at that time this crossing was the governor. Pleiades was then the governor. And it's having to do with the precession of equinox, this line swaying. And so this crossing's constantly moving in this direction. But in the past it was in this direction. And so due to the precession of equinox, this crossing is moving 1 degree every 71.6 years. Every 72 years it moves 1 more degree. So we have 24 hours and 360 degrees. And that means we're going to move 15 degrees every hour. So this 3 hours is 45 degrees. And then this 47 minutes, we divide 47 by 60 by an hour, and it'll give us a decimal fraction for 47 minutes. And we multiply that times 15 degrees, 15 degrees per hour. It will give us 11.75, plus the 45 minutes for this 3 hours, or the 45 degrees for this 3 hours. 56.75 degrees is how far Pleiades is sitting past the crossing now from the governor. And so if it only moved 1 degree every 72 years, we multiply that times 72, and it's going to give us 4,086 years. And so that's how old the book of Job is. And it's in the writ to crack it, the riddle seeing. In the writ to crack it, the riddle seeing. This is the first book of the Bible. It's the oldest book of the Bible. And so the whole book is written like this. It's not for dummies, And it's even more difficult, with all the misinterpretations and all the lies. But it was going on way back then, and that's why they writ time like this. Because they can't hide it. All we got to do is go out on Easter, with a compass and see when the sun crosses and see what stars are there and watch the stars. So yeah, they're definitely lying to us about a section of time, but they can't lie to me about when that book was written. I don't care what year it was called. I know how long ago it was. And I know just by this word and its place being the one, I know when this Vedic astrology was written too. And so when I said I was going to crack this with Hebrew astrology, this is ancient Hebrew astrology. You can't do it with the new Hebrew astrology. They got it all screwed up because they don't want you to know that the word Moses actually means Aries, the first month. And when you see the first time you see Moses come up in the Bible in Exodus, that's giving you a time of when that book was written. So this word and answered, it reads several different ways, but here it is, Vav Yod, to make the Yom, final N is an M, and that's just so they could hide this, to make the day. And when you see it end with and the yam, or to J-I-A-M, to the outer edge of the tortoise shell to begin. And then you know that next word coming, just 2 letters of my, you come over here to the outer ring of the tortoise shell and you find my. And so it's the second pada in the 10th nakshatra, the 10th house of the moon. And each house of the moon is split up into 4 padas of 3 degrees 20 minutes. And so all this book of Job, this came out before the rest of the Bible, and it's just explaining the Vedic astrology is what this book's about. And it's giving you the types. If you were born on this day, if you're born on this time, and it's teaching the wisdom, W-I-S-D-O-M, final N is M. It's just a way because they wanted to hide this knowledge. The wisdom hiss them. Wisdom of the serpent is what astrology is. And all these ancients dancing with the snakes, that's the wisdom of astrology. And what it has to do with medicine, back in the day when you were sick, first they sent out the Ashipu, the astrologer, to see why you were sick. If he couldn't figure it out, then they'd send out the Ashu, and he was skilled with the herbal medicine. He could read deeper into the book.
Don't forget, I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.